The air inside the small back-alley gym in Santa Monica is so thick you can almost taste it. It's 1967, and the California heat has turned this concrete box into a pressure cooker. It doesn't smell like the ocean, even though the Pacific is only a few blocks away. It smells of stale sweat, worn leather, and the sharp medicinal sting of wintergreen liniment. But beneath the scent of the gym, there is something else, something heavy. It's the smell of pure, unadulterated arrogance. In the center of the room, two men stand on a canvas mat that has seen better days. One is a mountain of a man, a wall of functional muscle with ears flattened by years of grappling and hands that look like they were carved out of oak. He is a master of a style that in 1967 felt like a cheat code. To him and to everyone watching in the shadows of the gym, the fight is already over. He believes in a singular, terrifying truth. The ground is an ocean, he is the shark, and most people don't even know how to swim. The other man is smaller, leaner, and looks almost out of place. He isn't wearing a traditional GI or the heavy cotton of a judoka. He's in a simple black tracksuit, his hair neat, his expression dangerously relaxed. This is Bruce Lee. At this moment, he isn't the global icon on a t-shirt. He's a man whose ideas are being mocked. The grappler has just told him, in front of a dozen witnesses, that all his flashy movements, his speed and his philosophy are useless. The grappler's logic is simple. Once I grab you, your world ends. Once your back hits the dirt, you are a fish out of water. The room goes dead silent. You can hear the hum of a flickering fluorescent light overhead. Bruce doesn't argue. He doesn't shout. He doesn't try to prove his worth with words. Instead, he reaches into a small bag, pulls out a common plastic kitchen timer, and places it on a scarred wooden bench. He looks the giant in the eye and sets the dial. 30 seconds. That's the deal. Bruce gives the man exactly 30 seconds to put him on his back. To the grappler, this sounds like a gift. He's used to matches that last 10-20 minutes. 30 seconds to take down a man who weighs 50 pounds less than him? It's an insult. But Bruce adds a final stake, a point of no return that makes the air in the room feel even thinner. If Bruce's back touches that mat even once, he leaves Los Angeles. He stops teaching, he closes his schools, and disappears from the martial arts world forever. 30 seconds to decide a legacy. 30 seconds to prove that a philosophy isn't just a collection of pretty movements, but a hard, cold reality. In 1967, the martial arts landscape was a collection of walled gardens. You practiced karate, or you practiced judo, or you practiced kung fu. You didn't mix them. And in the world of grappling, there was a growing legend about a style coming out of Brazil that was supposedly invincible. The practitioners of this style didn't care about your punches or your kicks. They cared about the clinch. They believed that every fight, no matter how it started, ended on the ground. And on the ground, they were kings. The man facing Bruce was a disciple of this absolute certainty. He had spent his life perfecting the art of closing the distance. He knew that a striker needs space. A striker needs a platform. If you take away the space, you take away the threat. He looked at Bruce Lee and saw a dancer. He saw a man who spent too much time worrying about the beauty of a strike and not enough time worrying about the gravity of a takedown. To him, Bruce was a victim who simply hadn't been caught yet. But Bruce Lee was vibrating with a quiet, controlled energy. He wasn't standing in a deep, traditional stance. He was bouncing slightly on the balls of his feet, his hands low, his eyes tracking every micro-movement of the giant in front of him. He wasn't looking at the man's face. He was looking at his center of gravity. He was looking for the one thing that absolute certainty always hides, the transition. The grappler sneered. He could see the clock ticking down in his mind before it even started. He thought about how easy this was going to be. He would lunge. He would grab the lapel or the arm. He would use his weight to bowl the smaller man over, and the little dragon would be nothing more than a memory in the California dust. He believed that the fatal flaw of any striker was proximity. If you get close enough, the striker's tools become useless. What he didn't realize was that Bruce Lee had identified a different fatal flaw. Not a flaw in the striking, but a flaw in the system of the invincible grappler. A flaw that exists in the split second between the here and the there. The timer starts. The metallic tick-tick-tick fills the gym, sounding like a heartbeat. The grappler doesn't wait. He lunges. He moves with a terrifying, explosive speed that belies his size. He isn't reaching for a punch, he's reaching for the kill. He wants to wrap his arms around Bruce's waist and end the career of the most famous martial artist in the world before the timer can even reach the 25-second mark. The witnesses lean forward. They expect to see Bruce circle away. They expect to see him run, to use the mat space to stay out of reach, to play a game of cat and mouse until the 30 seconds expire. That would be the smart move. That would be the safe move. But Bruce Lee doesn't move back. In a move that defies every instinct of a striker facing a grappler, Bruce steps directly into the eye of the storm. He doesn't retreat. He accelerates into the collision. The grappler's hands are inches from Bruce's chest. The ocean is about to swallow the shark. In this moment, the room seems to shift into slow motion. You can see the sweat flying off the grappler's brow. You can see the triumph in his eyes. He has him. The distance is closed. The clinch is inevitable. But then, something happens that no one in the room expected. Bruce Lee exploits the one thing the grappler never accounted for, the moment of the reach. In the world of high-level grappling, there is a fundamental belief that once you touch the opponent, the game begins. But Bruce realized that the game actually begins in the vacuum just before the touch. It's the transition. In that split second where the grappler reaches out, he is momentarily off balance. He is committed to a single vector of force. He is so sure that he will find a grip that he has forgotten what happens if he finds a wall instead. As the grappler's fingers brush the fabric of Bruce's tracksuit, Bruce's lead foot anchors firmly against the man's hip. It isn't a kick. It isn't a strike meant to cause damage. It's a structural bypass. It's a physical no. By placing his foot on the hip and simultaneously checking the man's shoulder with a palm, Bruce creates a bridge that the grappler cannot cross. The giant's own momentum is turned into a liability. He is pushing forward with hundreds of pounds of force, but he is pushing against a frame that is perfectly aligned to the ground. Within those first 10 seconds, the frame-by-frame reality of the fight shifts. The grappler, who thought he was the hunter, suddenly feels a terrifying sensation. He is paralyzed. He is close enough to touch Bruce, but he is unable to move him. He is reaching for the water, but the ocean has turned into solid stone. The grappler's face changes from triumph to confusion, and then to a flickering shadow of panic. He tries to adjust. He tries to pull back to reset, but Bruce's hand is already there, stopping an inch from his throat, a silent promise of what could happen if this were a fight to the death. The timer is still ticking. Tick, tick, tick. The master of the invincible system is stuck in a limbo he didn't know existed. He has spent his life learning what to do on the ground, but he never learned what to do when he is denied the ground by a man who understands the space between. 20 seconds left. The room is frozen. The disciples of the Brazilian master are watching their god struggle against a man who is barely touching him. Bruce isn't even breathing hard. He is looking at the grappler with a calm, almost predatory curiosity. He has found the hole in the fortress. He has found the fatal flaw in the invincible art. And as the timer counts down, everyone in that humid Santa Monica gym begins to realize that they aren't just watching a fight. They are watching the end of a certainty. They are watching a world where the shark has finally met something it cannot bite. 15 seconds remain. In a room like this, 15 seconds can feel like an eternity. The grappler's lungs are burning now, not from the physical exertion, but from the sudden, suffocating realization that his reality is collapsing. He had spent years mastering the mechanics of the human body, learning how to leverage weight and bone to force a man into submission. He was the shark, and this gym was his ocean. But as he stares into the calm, unblinking eyes of Bruce Lee, he realizes he isn't in the water anymore. He's been lured onto the sand, and the tide is never coming back in. The grappler shifts his weight, trying to find a new angle. He's desperate now. He's no longer thinking about the invincible system of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's thinking about survival. He tries to snatch at Bruce's lead leg, a classic move that has never failed him. He expects Bruce to pull back, to hop away. to show the fear that every striker feels when their foundation is threatened. If Bruce retreats, the grappler wins. If Bruce hesitates, the grappler wins. But Bruce doesn't retreat. As the man dives for the leg, Bruce does something that defies every tactical manual of the era. He drops his center of gravity just an inch and pivots on a dime. It's a movement so subtle it's almost invisible to the untrained eye. He doesn't kick. He doesn't punch. He simply occupies the space that the grappler needs to finish the move. By the time the grappler's arms close around where Bruce's leg should be, he finds only empty air and the hard, unforgiving surface of Bruce's hip checking his shoulder. The sound of the struggle is replaced by the rhythmic tick, tick, tick of that plastic kitchen timer on the bench. It's a countdown to the end of a career, the end of a school, and the end of a legacy. 10 seconds left. The witnesses are paralyzed. They came here to see a slaughter, to see the movie star get humbled by a real fighter. Instead, they are watching a masterclass in the invisible. The grappler is a wall of muscle, a man who could likely bench press twice Bruce's weight, yet he looks like a child trying to grab a shadow. Every time he reaches, Bruce is already gone, and yet Bruce is always right there, leaning into the man's space, neutralizing the leverage before it can even form. This was the fatal flaw Bruce had identified. The grappler's system relied on the opponent's resistance. It relied on the opponent trying to stay away. By moving into the grappler, by staying in the dead zone where the man couldn't generate power or find a grip, Bruce was essentially unplugging the machine. The invincibility of the style wasn't a lie, but it was a half-truth. It was invincible only against those who played by its rules. Bruce Lee wasn't playing. 5 seconds. The grappler gathers every ounce of his strength for one final explosive lunge. He doesn't care about form anymore. He doesn't care about the art. He just wants this smaller man on the floor. He throws his entire body forward in a power double-leg takedown that would have leveled a stone wall. In that final tick of the clock, the room seems to go silent. Bruce's lead hand shoots out, not as a fist, but as a stiff-arm palm that connects perfectly with the grappler's chest, while his other hand catches the man's chin. It's a structural lock. The grappler's momentum is stopped cold, his head pushed back, his spine misaligned. He is standing on his toes, completely off balance, suspended in a moment of total vulnerability. Bruce's hand is an inch from the man's throat. His fingers are curled, ready to strike, but they don't move. He has the man's life in the palm of his hand. He has the man's reputation under his heel. Ding! The timer goes off. The sound is tiny, a cheap metallic ring that cuts through the heavy atmosphere like a razor. The room is frozen. The grappler is still standing, but he is broken. He is breathing in ragged, heavy gasps, his face a mask of shock and shame. He looks down at his hands, the hands that were supposed to be invincible, and he sees them trembling. He looks at Bruce, who is standing perfectly still, his black tracksuit not even wrinkled, his breathing as calm as if he were taking a stroll through a park. 30 seconds have passed. Bruce Lee is still standing. His back has not touched the mat. His schools will stay open. His legacy is secure. But then the second payoff happens, the moment that truly defines who Bruce Lee was. Instead of laughing, instead of mocking the man who just tried to destroy his life's work, Bruce simply smiles. It's a warm, genuine smile. He reaches out, not with a strike, but with an open hand. He places it on the grappler's shoulder and helps him regain his balance. He doesn't say, "I told you so." He doesn't claim victory. "You have a great deal of power," Bruce says, his voice quiet but steady. "But you are looking for the finish before you have mastered the beginning. You are trying to catch the water in a net. You must learn to become the water." The grappler looks at Bruce, and for the first time the arrogance is gone. In its place is a profound, aching curiosity. He realizes that he hasn't been defeated. He's been enlightened. He had been living in a fortress of his own making, a cage of invincibility that had kept him from seeing the truth of combat. Years later, that same grappler would be found in a different gym, training a different way. He would tell his students about that afternoon in Santa Monica, about the day a dancer showed him that the ground isn't an ocean unless you let it be. He changed his entire approach to martial arts, incorporating the very fluidity he once mocked. Bruce didn't destroy the man's art, he gave it the missing piece. He showed him that the ultimate strength isn't in the grip, but in the release. The shadows in the gym have grown long now, the orange sun disappearing behind the California horizon. The witnesses file out in silence, their heads down, their minds racing. They came to see a fight, but they left with a philosophy. They realized that the most dangerous man in the room isn't the one with the biggest muscles or the most trophies. It's the man who is willing to see the world as it is, not as he wants it to be. Bruce Lee picks up his kitchen timer, tosses it into his bag, and walks out into the cool evening air. He didn't just win 30 seconds, he won the future. He proved that no system, no matter how storied or successful, is ever truly finished. It makes you wonder about the walls you've built around yourself. Where in your life are you so sure of your strength that you've become blind to your weakness? Are you holding on to a belief just because it's comfortable or because it's true? When someone challenges the foundation of your world, do you reach for the kill or do you reach for the lesson? Are you building a fortress to keep the world out, or are you just building a cage to keep yourself in? When you finally face the truth, when your 30 seconds are on the line, will you break under the pressure or will you have the courage to evolve? In the end, the shark didn't lose because the ocean disappeared. The shark lost because it forgot that there is a whole world beyond the shore. Who are you subestimating right now? And more importantly, what are you afraid they might be right about?